had to learn along the way through having some really, really great mentors and also getting kicked in the teeth a lot.
Yeah.
Like you learn more from the losses than you do the wins. And
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hausman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. I am so excited to dive in today. He's the founder and CEO of Bloom, host of podcast Operation Agency Freedom. I want to learn more about that. And he's got a new book out. He's the author of Facts, Not Feelings. Chris Martinez, thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. I've been looking into your background. I was really looking forward to this conversation. So you built a couple different companies, but a successful marketing agency and through the building of multiple companies. I know, as an entrepreneur myself, it's like you learn a ton of lessons. So what are a few lessons you learned in growing your business?
So just to kind of summarize what I like my entrepreneurial journey. So actually my very first business that I started, I had a soccer magazine. So unfortunately my dad passed away of cancer. And then I started my first business, which was a soccer magazine, a print soccer magazine. I lost everything. I made every mistake you could possibly make. So from that experience alone, I learned that if you're trying to do everything, that's a recipe for disaster. After that, my next business was a marketing agency. And so I started that. I would say one of the biggest lessons that I learned from that experience was not pricing accordingly. So we started out, we were very low ticket, trying to do this marketing agency thinking that we would get 1 million users. And that business model was totally flawed. We did get hundreds of clients, but it was very, very difficult. Next business, the one that kind of like had some success, was an outsourcing company called Dude. And in that business, we were basically connecting talent in Latin America, specifically in Mexico, with marketing agencies. The big lesson that I learned there that I, very, very thankful for that, is learning to run the business by the numbers, right? Very, very important. You can have a great product, and I see this all the time, actually. You have a really good product. It's selling, but it's not profitable. The business ain't going to work, right? You might think that at a certain point, then everything's going to work out. It does not happen very often, especially in my industry, marketing agencies. So you have to set yourself up for success from the beginning. Now with Bloom, I think one of the biggest things that we're doing really well is providing clarity to marketing agency owners and showing them specifically how to get from point A to point B. And then a lot of the times we have to drag them across the finish line. So those would be some of my biggest lessons.
Those are good ones. Those are really good ones. And again, I think you're right. That's something that's taken me a long time to realize and to, internalize the lesson is, man, you got to manage by the numbers. I had something that I was a sales guy early, started the company, and I'll outsell every problem. Right. And I think we were talking before we started, it's like Mike McAllowitz was one of those, the prophet first kind of broke through my brain a little bit and started me.
Absolutely.
It still took me a long time to get to where I need to be, but I love that. So if you want a great business, one of the things I know is I need a great team. So how do you build high performance teams?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm a natural born leader in terms of leadership that's required to build a business. This is something that I've had to learn along the way through having some really, really great mentors and also getting kicked in the teeth a lot. Like you learn more from the losses than you do the wins. And so I essentially, one of the biggest lessons that I learned eventually was that I had to get out of the hiring process. What I recognized, and you have to look at the data, right, is that the bad hires that we had, I hired them. I was the one that made that decision. And I think this is very common with visionaries, right, like CEOs and founders, is that we often see the good or the potential in a candidate, and we don't see the reality. The best indicator of future performance is past performance, right? But when we do the interviewing, a lot of the times we're like, oh man, this person has so much potential. And what we're truly saying is that I see some of myself in that person. Therefore, I think that they're going to be a great fit. The reality with a lot of the roles that we're hiring for at any stage of the business is that we're hiring people to cover our weaknesses.
Yeah.
We don't need somebody to complement our strengths. We need to be able to focus on our zone of genius, right? What some people call it, like the things that
Yeah.
we do really well. And therefore, for us to be able to do that, we have to hire people that cover our blind spots, that are
Yeah.
better at the things that we're not good at. So if I had one big tip when it comes to hiring, it's to get yourself, if you're the owner, get yourself out of doing the hiring, because a lot
Wow.
of the times you're not the best person to identify the team members that are going to help push the business forward.
Yeah, that's super interesting, Chris. Like, and it reminds me of you see if you're a follower of sports, that feels like
Oh
there are
yeah,
certain coaches who always feel like they can fix that guy who's been to 7 different teams and has been a disaster, but they see it right, like, and
that's
they
going to be
see the
different this
potential.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But, so
Well,
I love that.
I'm very fortunate. My wife is kind of like an expert in HR and management and
Yeah, that
organizational
helps.
leadership. And so she works with us in the business. And so when she came in, I started the business and then we met, and then eventually she came in and took over. And I saw what she was doing. I was like, oh my God, I'm an idiot. Like, I've been doing so many things wrong, right? Because in the moment, like, before you see what you don't know, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is all great. And like, I read this book and I heard this podcast guy and da 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 da. And then
Yeah.
you see somebody who's actually educated and skilled in that area.
Yeah.
And then she came in and fixed everything. And I was like, oh man, I messed a lot of stuff up. But hindsight's 2020.
That's right. That's right. Well, this leads nicely into my next question, which is just really about leading and
Yeah.
leadership. So, what are some skills that you had to develop along the way? Right. What are some skills that
Yeah.
every company owner needs?
I love this question. So we work with marketing agency owners, right? And they've got a good business and we want to help them go from, like the title of the book, good to great. And so we're evaluating these business owners as well as the whole company all the time and helping them to plug holes and fix things. One of the things that we track are the characteristics of our most successful, financially successful business owners. And so we have a list of them, and I'll just kind of give you the top 3.
Sure.
So the first one that we see is accountability. They believe in building a culture of accountability, including with themselves, starting first and foremost with themselves.
Yeah.
If you can't hold yourself accountable, then how can we expect everybody else to hold themselves accountable,
Yeah.
right? So you have to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I'm not living up to the standard, so I can't expect that out of somebody else. I need to change me and elevate my game. Then I can hold everybody else to that same standard, right?
Yeah.
The second one is discipline. And this is something that's really, really challenging, especially in my industry, because a lot of marketing agencies don't necessarily have great discipline. They love doing the work. Other areas of their life, not as disciplined. You have to have great discipline. I don't think that it's possible to truly reach your potential without discipline and focus in not just doing the work, like the technical stuff, but learning how to build the business. You have to get very disciplined at looking at the numbers, at learning how to build out SOPs and processes, not doing the fun stuff, getting really, really disciplined and getting the non-sexy parts of running your business completed.
Yeah.
And the last one that I would say is it kind of ties into the first one of accountability, but it's self-awareness. You have to constantly be looking at yourself and just reflecting it and almost doing like an inventory and saying like, hey, am I doing this? Am I doing this? How am I performing with this? This helps a ton too when you have an outsider's perspective. It can be a mentor. It can be a therapist, right? And actually now I learn more from my therapist than I do from other business mentors, because I've been doing this a long time. Not to say that there's not more that I can learn, but like on a weekly basis, I learn so much from my therapist, more about myself as well as other people, right? So, but the overall concept is you do have to have a conscious effort towards improving your own self-awareness. Those 3 things, if you can just fix those 3 things, I would say that's 50% of the battle.
Yeah, and I love that. And you alluded to this with your therapist and your wife, is having somebody who will speak truth into you that you can hear it from.
Yep.
Right. Like,
Yep.
Because I work with my wife, and
Yep.
that people are always like, how do you do it? And I'm like, it works really well for us because we have that kind of relationship. And she is one of the people who can tell me when I'm being an idiot.
Yes.
And obviously, hopefully she'll say it nicer than that, but I need to hear it. Right. And so I think that having somebody like that, because it helps with the other 3.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you look at the world around us, right? Like how many successful business owners are there that are out there, and then they just surround themselves with yes men, maybe unintentionally, and then they end up making really, really dumb decisions.
Right.
Elon Musk might be one of those people. It's like,
right now,
he was doing things so well. It's like, what are you doing, man? And by perception, obviously I'm not friends with Elon, but a lot of the times there are people that are trying to get something from you. And so you kind of, out of the blue, or one day you wake up and all these yes people are around you and nobody's there to hold you accountable. And so I think that you need to have those people around you, which is why you and I have our wives.
That's right.
They have no problem telling me. My wife has no problem telling me when I'm being stupid.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And I need it. Okay. Final question. This is great, Chris. Once you have grown the business, some people, the natural evolution is they might want to sell. So what advice do you have for someone who's looking to prepare their company for sale?
Yeah. So I'm glad that you asked this question. I think that everybody should think about what it's going to look like when they sell the business. That should be an end goal for everybody. Your mindset about the decisions that you make will change when you recognize, and maybe it's like 30 years down the road that you want to do this exit. But the way that you operate the business and the way that you think will change when you recognize, I want to build this business so that it's an asset that I could sell one day. Right? Yeah. Really, really important. All of the clients that we take on, they all say, hey, I want to sell this business for millions of dollars down the road. So the biggest thing that I think that people overlook when they're going to sell the business, especially marketing agency owners, the numbers, right? Your financials. That will be the first and the last thing that a buyer looks at. Ultimately, they're going to look at the numbers. Now, it depends on industry. I know we have a lot of different listeners here, but if you're a marketing agency owner, they're going to look at your EBITDA. If it's under $1 million, they're probably going to get a 3 to 4x multiple. If it's over $1 million, we're probably looking at 5, 6, or 7. Now, there's a lot of little factors that can increase or decrease that EBITDA. For example, if you run a marketing agency and you have monthly recurring revenue, if your churn is very high, that's going to drop that multiple. If the number itself is over $1 million, but the percentage of total revenue is low, that's going to drop your valuation. If you have high employee churn, that's going to lower your valuation, right? So there's a lot of little details that you have that will influence your valuation, but at the very least, you have to have your numbers. They're going to look at least the past 2 years of financials, and then they're going to look at forecasts and projections, right? Because they want to see what you think is their way that they're going to make their money back, right? So I tell everybody this, I know it's not sexy. I know it's not fun, especially if you're an entrepreneur. I'm not an accountant, right? I didn't go to school. I didn't get a business degree or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it will come down to numbers. So if nothing else, go get yourself a bookkeeper and get monthly P&Ls. You will absolutely need that. So that's just a super simple thing. Everybody needs a bookkeeper.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Great advice, Chris. And I appreciate you taking the time today. So two quick questions to finalize here. Number one, and I'll give them to you at the same time. Number one, where can people find you? And B, tell us a little bit where we can find Facts Not Feelings, and maybe a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So if you want to connect with me, Instagram, we've got tons of stuff on Instagram. bloompartners.io is our Instagram. And then our website, bloompartners.io is the website. You can also go there and book a call. I am very excited. I have a new book, Facts Not Feelings. So this is my 4th book. I'm very, very excited about this one. I'm a big reader, as I'm sure you are. And so what's different about this book is I decided to write it like a story. So if you've ever read The E-Myth or Built to Sell, right? Some of the best business books that were ever written. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of just a kind of black and white how-to, I'm going to tell the story of an agency owner who is financially successful on the outside, struggling on the inside, meets a mentor, the mentor guides him, and eventually he gets to a place where he can sell his marketing agency. So that book is out, Facts Not Feelings. You can go on Amazon, grab a copy.
That's awesome. I love it. Chris, thank you so much. This has been super fun. We will have to do it again sometime, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Kirby.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.